Welcome back to Swervin Island. It's my pride and joy, the best city I've ever made, except that my transit kinda sucks. I saw this post on Reddit asking, what is considered good transit usage? This user has, we'll round it to 99,000 riders a month, in a city of 134,000. That's 74% of the population a month, and I think that's pretty good. Another commenter posted their numbers and had an 81%. As for me, I'm only moving 24% of the population a month at my city, and if that wasn't enough evidence, even my other cities have a much higher score, which confirms that Swervin Island's transit needs some work. Now, before we dive in adding new transit services, let me show you the current layout, and I'm using the Better Transit View mod by Guns N' Roses, available on PDX mods. So let's look at my current metro network. My strategy is to funnel passengers into downtown from around the main island. I also have a loop connecting the major population and commerce centers in the city that also stops downtown. I made this loop with two separate lines, the green and blue lines, but the green line has the majority of riders. I also have various local networks over on the mainland, and I've tried to create networks that move workers to the industry I have on the edge of the map, but none of these lines are super popular. Here's my most popular line, the Friday line. It splits the heart of the main island and the smaller island and goes into my main industrial hub. Now, one thing I noticed is that even my busiest lines have low capacity utilization, and I'm going to scale back the number of trains servicing all lines. I'll also look for gaps in coverage where we might have opportunity to place a new line. I've tried this with a couple of new routes, and they have some riders, but not enough to move the needle. So I'm skeptical that a bunch of new metro routes will increase overall ridership in the city that much. But one service I think that could make a big impact is bus services. Here's a look at my current bus system, and you can see some pretty big gaps in coverage around the city. So I will be adding several new bus routes. One thing I'm going to try is a few point-to-point bus routes that go from station to station with no conventional bus stops in between. My goal is to create transfer hubs between parts of the city that otherwise would have no direct transit service. We'll see how this works out later. Right now, the city has 0 trams. I think I'll make a system out on this island to see what kind of ridership it gets. I'll also expand my ferry service. I have this one line that really is more for RP than actually moving citizens. So now we will add a few lines connecting popular destinations along the waterfront. Now, before ferries, I used harbors to connect outside the city, but also I started using them for intercity travel like ferries. But I had to scrap that plan after a patch broke outside connections for this city. That's also why Swervin Island doesn't have a shiny new port, but luckily, any outside water connection that existed before the patch still works. And now we have actual ferries to place. Now, I haven't built a big ferry system yet, and I'm not sure what the best approach is, so I'm going to experiment with some different methods. One thing I'm trying is this really tight 3-stop loop. I'll assign one boat to that, and we'll see how it does versus some longer loops and some point-to-point shuttle style routes. Now, my goal was to keep this test with trams and ferries isolated to this corner of the map, but I couldn't help myself, and I'm connecting new tram and ferry service up to the main island, and I'm looking forward to slowly growing these networks through all districts in the city. Now, I was all in on taxis for a while in Swervin Island, but I've slowly been scaling back now that bikes are secretly taking over downtown, so I won't be expanding taxi service. I am going to max out my airport with routes. I'm essentially duplicating routes I already have, but it's worth a shot just to see if we get a bump in air travel. Now, I wasn't sure if I would place any new metro lines at first, but after a close look, I do see one part of the main island that is underserviced with transit in general, and that is this section of the city called the Jungle. It's a dense residential district located just outside of downtown. There's transit options all around it, but nothing running through the area, so we'll put a new metro line here. Okay, we've made several additions to our transit system. It's time to let the game run for a while and see if we can get that 24% higher. While I was letting the game run, I placed some new assets and did some roadside beautification to pass the time. I've only managed to get through 1 month of game time, but let's see how our new transit services are doing. Let's start with our one and only Metro edition, the Jungle Line. We've got 630 passengers between 2 trains, and that's about what I expected. A very modest gain, but I'll take it. Looking at trams, again at first sight here, I see very modest riders, but this line running into the main island has some potential. The new ferry system looks pretty underwhelming. Maybe it will pick up in the future. Finally, some good news. This new bus station in Midland, 2 of the new lines are completely maxed out, and they both provide service to different spots downtown. The service running to the mainland commerce districts is also very popular, and this new station now has 3 of the top 5 bus lines in the whole city, and maybe this is a model I can replicate. However, all of my new bus stations are not doing as good as the service out of Midland. My new station downtown almost has no riders. Yikes. Now here's the full comparison using the transportation overview from May and from this month in June. Overall, we've actually lost over 7,000 riders in the city, but the loss of riders is from services I left alone: taxis, trains, and ships. Also, I doubled my airport service and actually lost 83 riders a month, so doubling up lanes just to fill gates was a big L for me in Swervin Island. In this view at least, the tram and ferry additions look a lot more promising, so there's definitely some good with the bad here, and we've got some new strategies we can deploy across the city. Now let's sit back and enjoy a ride on the new, most popular bus route in Swervin Island. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.